Buffalo Wallow Fight Deadliest Texas Battle 1874. Welcome to Native Legends and History Stories, where we uncover the most dramatic battles and untold stories of the American frontier. If you're passionate about authentic, historical narratives that reveal the true nature of frontier warfare, make sure to subscribe and join our community of history enthusiasts. Now let's dive into an extraordinary tale of survival against impossible odds. September 12, 1874, Northern Texas. The odds are 100 to 6, and the 6 are already wounded. A massive force of Kiowa and Comanche warriors executes their deadly encirclement with precision, their horses moving in perfect coordination as they unleash a devastating barrage of arrows and bullets. Each warrior is a master of mounted combat, able to control their mount with just their legs while firing up to 6 arrows in the time it takes a soldier to reload his rifle. Once at the center of this deadly circle stand 6 men from the U.S. Army, a mix of seasoned scouts and soldiers caught in the worst possible situation on the Texas frontier. Leading them is Billy Dixon, whose reputation precedes him across the plains. Just months earlier, at the Second Battle of Adobe Walls, Dixon had achieved what many considered impossible, taking down a Comanche chief at a distance of nearly half a mile with a single shot. That legendary feat had saved his companions and earned him a place in frontier history. But today, even Dixon's extraordinary marksmanship seems inadequate against such overwhelming numbers. Alongside Dixon stands fellow scout Amos Chapman, whose tracking skills and combat experience have gotten them out of countless tight spots before. The military contingent consists of Sergeant Woodhull, whose steady leadership keeps the group focused despite their dire situation, and 3 privates Rath, Harrington, and Smith. Each man bears wounds of varying severity, their blood staining their uniforms as they maintain their defensive positions. Their mission had seemed straightforward enough: deliver critical dispatches to Colonel Nelson A. Miles about delayed supplies. Captain Willis Lyman's supply train had been repeatedly hit by Kiowa and Comanche raiders, preventing essential provisions from reaching Miles' camp now. These 6 men find themselves caught by what appears to be the same raiding party, but on a much larger scale. The Kiowa and Comanche warriors demonstrate why they're considered the finest light cavalry in the world. Their tactics are a perfected art form, the result of generations spent mastering mounted warfare. They attack in coordinated waves, each warrior choosing his moment to break from the main group, charge in at full gallop, fire their weapons with deadly accuracy, and wheel away before the soldiers can effectively return fire. Their horses respond to the slightest pressure of their riders' legs, moving as if horse and warrior are a single being. This is no random encounter. It's a carefully planned ambush that forms part of the larger Red River War, a final, desperate campaign by the Southern Plains tribes to defend their traditional lands. The Kiowa and Comanche have dominated these plains for generations, their mastery of mounted warfare making them formidable opponents. For 15 years, they've engaged in increasingly violent clashes with military forces and settlers, turning the Texas frontier into one of the deadliest battlegrounds in American history. The 6 men know what capture means. They've seen the aftermath of other skirmishes where soldiers were taken alive. Each man has silently committed to fighting to the last bullet rather than face that fate. But with their horses scattered, their supplies lost, and enemies closing in from all directions, even that grim determination might not be enough to see them through the next few hours. The Kiowa and Comanche warriors employ battle tactics that have proven devastatingly effective. Against traditional military formations, their signature move is the cyclonic attack. Warriors circle their targets at full gallop, steadily tightening their formation like a deadly spiral. This creates a constant barrage of fire from all directions while making it nearly impossible for their enemies to mount an effective defense. When the attack concludes, they scatter across the plains in smaller groups, only to regroup and strike again from unexpected directions. These tactics present a particularly difficult challenge for U.S. Army soldiers trained in Civil War-style combat, where the Civil War saw regiments moving in coordinated lines and columns executing carefully planned maneuvers on clearly defined battlefields. The Plains warriors operate with a fluid grace that defies conventional military response. Their hit-and-run attacks, carried out by small, autonomous groups, render traditional infantry tactics not just obsolete, but deadly for those attempting to use them. Even Billy Dixon, whose extensive experience fighting alongside and against native warriors has made him one of the Army's most valuable scouts, recognizes the futility of their situation. His group is caught in the open, their positioning making them perfect targets for the encircling warriors. Dixon knows from hard experience that their chances of surviving a sustained attack under these conditions are vanishingly small. The first casualty comes swiftly and deals a devastating blow to the group's survival chances. Private George Smith, tasked with controlling their horses during the fight, takes a bullet through his lung just minutes into the engagement. The impact sends him crashing to the ground, and in the chaos that follows, all their horses bolt with them go the men's haversacks, containing their ammunition, their coats for the cold night ahead, blankets, and most critically, their water canteens. In mere moments, they've lost not just their mobility and supplies, but also one of their own men. The Kiowa and Comanche warriors, recognizing their target's vulnerability, shift to a more methodical approach, rather than risk casualties in an all-out assault against men who, though trapped, are still dangerous shots. They break into smaller groups for targeted attacks. Each warrior seeks to prove his bravery through increasingly bold maneuvers, charging closer to the defenders, executing more difficult shots, demonstrating superior horsemanship. Their main focus falls on Smith's motionless form, believing him dead and seeing an opportunity to claim a trophy of war. Unknown to both sides, Smith clings to life. Each labored breath sends searing pain through his chest as he lies helpless, watching arrows and bullets strike the ground around him. His companions, initially believing him dead, fight desperately to prevent the warriors from claiming his body. They maintain a steady rate of fire, trying to keep the attackers at bay while looking for any opportunity to improve their position. As the battle intensifies, the remaining 5 men find their exposed position becoming increasingly untenable. Dixon, scanning the terrain with an experienced eye, spots a mesquite flat roughly a quarter-mile away. The scattered trees would provide some cover, and he quickly suggests making a break for it. But before they can implement this risky plan, a sharp crack rings out and Amos Chapman, Dixon's fellow scout and longtime companion, jerks backward as a bullet finds its mark. Chapman's voice remains steady despite his injury, calling out to Dixon with remarkable composure, "Billy, I am hit." At last the bullet has found its mark. But in the chaos of ongoing combat, Dixon can't spare more than a quick glance at his wounded companion. His attention is divided between returning fire at the charging warriors and searching desperately for better cover. During one of his sweeping glances across the battlefield, Dixon's experienced eye catches something promising. A shallow depression in the prairie ground nearby. It's a buffalo wallow, one of the many natural depressions created by roaming herds who dig and roll in the dirt to cool themselves and ward off insects. Though barely 10 feet across and only a few feet deep, the wallow represents their best chance for survival. Dixon quickly evaluates their options. The mesquite flat is too far, and with Chapman wounded, such a long run would be suicide. The buffalo wallow, though not ideal, offers immediate possibilities for defense. Without hesitation, Dixon shouts to his companions that he'll make the first dash to assess its potential. What follows is a heart-stopping sprint through a hail of arrows and bullets. Dixon zigzags across the open ground, the warriors' fire intensifying as they try to cut him down. Reaching the wallow, he slides into its shallow confines and makes a rapid assessment. The depression is roughly 10 feet square, its sides sloping enough to provide some cover if they can enhance it. The soft earth can be easily dug out to create better protection. It's far from perfect, but it's their only chance. Dixon raises his voice above the battle noise, calling his companions to follow his lead. One by one, they make desperate runs to the wallow, each man's dash accompanied by increased fire from the warriors. As soon as they reach the relative safety of the depression, they begin frantically digging, with their bare hands and bowie knives, piling the soft sand around the edges to create a makeshift barricade. Between scoops of earth they return fire, keeping the warriors at bay while improving their defenses. The Kiowa and Comanche respond by intensifying their attacks, recognizing that their prey has found some shelter. They increase the frequency and ferocity of their charges, determined to overwhelm the soldiers before they can strengthen their position. The afternoon wears on, and the psychological toll of their desperate situation begins to show on the men. Dixon's first-hand account captures one particularly tense moment. Many times that terrible day did I think that my last moment was at hand. Once when the Indians were crowding us awfully hard, one of the boys raised up and yelled, "No use, boys, no use, we might as well give it up." We answered by shouting him to lie down. The soldier's moment of despair is punctuated by a bullet striking the soft sand near his head, filling his mouth with dirt. Dixon recalls finding grim humor in the moment. "I was so amused that I laughed, though in a rather sickly way, for none of us felt much like laughing." During a brief lull in the fighting, attention turns to Chapman, who remains exposed and vulnerable with his broken leg. The wounded scout's condition is deteriorating, but he maintains his composure, calmly informing the others that he cannot walk. Dixon, despite nursing a wound to his right calf, knows he must act. He makes several attempts to reach Chapman, each try met with withering fire. That forces him back to the Wallow. Finally seizing a moment when the warrior's fire slackens slightly, Dixon makes his boldest dash yet. Reaching Chapman, he quickly devises a plan to carry his friend to safety. "I told him to climb on my back," Dixon later wrote, "my plan being to carry him as I would a little child." With careful movements, they position Chapman's broken leg over his good one, and Dixon begins the grueling task of carrying his fellow scout to safety. Chapman's larger frame makes the journey even more challenging, his injured body a dead weight on Dixon's back, as they make their way to the Wallow under intense fire. The physical toll of carrying Chapman adds to Dixon's mounting exhaustion. But there's no time for rest. Inside the Buffalo Wallow, the men work with grim determination, their hands bleeding from digging in the coarse earth, as they strengthen their makeshift fortress. Despite their wounds, some minor, others severe, they maintain a disciplined rotation. While some dig and reinforce the walls, others keep watch and return fire against the increasingly aggressive attacks. The warriors, frustrated by their quarry's newfound shelter, begin mounting more daring assaults. Their war cries pierce the air as mounted warriors charge at full gallop, lances extended like medieval knights. Dixon's account captures these heart-stopping moments. "When I look back and recall our situation, I always find myself thinking of how my wounded companions never complained or faltered, but fought as bravely as if a bullet had not touched them. Sometimes the Indians would ride towards us at headlong speed, with lances lifted and poised, undoubtedly bent on spearing us. These charges require extraordinary courage from both sides. For the defenders, it takes iron nerve to hold fire until the last possible moment when their shots will be most effective. Such moments made a man embrace himself and grip his gun," Dixon writes. Their patience pays off when they manage to bring down one of the charging chiefs, a loss that causes the warriors to adopt more cautious tactics. As the afternoon wears on, the situation grows increasingly dire. The hot sun beats down mercilessly. As ammunition begins to run low, each man knows they must make every shot count. The defenders' thoughts inevitably turn to the fate that awaits them if captured. Dixon's words paint a chilling picture. "Ours was the courage of despair. We knew what would befall us if we should be captured alive. We had seen too many naked and mangled bodies of white men who had been spread-eagled and tortured with steel and fire, to forget what our own fate would be. So we were determined to fight to the end." Just when it seemed their situation couldn't become more desperate, nature intervenes. The North Texas sky darkens, with storm clouds that seem to materialize from nowhere. By 3 o'clock, a torrential downpour transforms their battlefield. The rain brings both relief and new miseries. While it drives back their attackers, it also turns their shelter into a muddy pool. The Buffalo Wallow, now filled with 2 inches of brown water mixed with blood from their wounds, becomes a nightmarish soup that they must endure. The Kiowa and Comanche warriors withdraw to a position just beyond rifle range. their figures barely visible through the rain as they sit wrapped in warm blankets, waiting out the storm. The defenders, stripped of their supplies when the horses bolted, have only their thin uniform shirts for protection against the sudden cold. Dixon feels the loss of his coat particularly keenly, not for its warmth, but for the irreplaceable photograph of his mother. It contains the last gift from his dying father. Despite their miserable conditions, cold, wet, wounded, and running low on ammunition, the men's survival instincts remain sharp. They realize they need more ammunition if they hope to survive another assault. Private Peter Rath volunteers for an incredibly dangerous mission, retrieving Private Smith's weapon and cartridge belt from where he fell. Rath makes his dash through the rain towards Smith's position. What he discovers turns their already grim situation into something even more horrifying. Smith is alive all this time,